Hello, and welcome to Wellness Wednesday with 3W. Wellness Wednesday is sponsored by 3W Medical for Women, a nonprofit medical clinic offering free of charge or low-cost reproductive health services to women in the Seattle area, regardless of income or insurance status. 3W does not profit off the reproductive health choices women make. The information shared in this podcast is the opinion of the speaker or speakers. Medical information is not intended as individual medical consultation, but for general education only. Always consult your own health professional for personalized advice regarding medical decisions. And if you're in the Seattle area, consider making an appointment to consult with us. I'm Lauren Searden, Operations Manager for 3W Medical for Women, and the host of today's podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another podcast, Wellness Wednesday with 3W. I am your host, Lauren, and so happy to be with you all today. Today, I have joining me two of my favorite ladies. I have Teresa, our advancement assistant.
Hello.
And our newly, I don't know what we're calling you. I guess we can just call you our intern, Cello.
Hi.
Cello, do you want me to call you Cello? You have like 4 names, I swear. Is Cello good?
Cello's fine.
Cello's good. She's a friend of 3W, I would say, as well as now an intern for the summer. So it's going to be really fun to be together.
I'm so excited.
We'll put you to work. And we've already put her to work because we are forcing her to be on this podcast. Just kidding. We're not forcing her. She is here, not against her will. Yeah, free will is here.
Consenting.
But it's her first time on the podcast.
Yeah. I'm so intimidated.
It's okay.
You guys sound so cool whenever I listen to the podcast. And
you know, it's all Teresa's editing. It makes it sound really good. She cuts out my likes and my my smacking. Yeah. Anyways, today's topic that I'm going to quiz these ladies on is some reproductive fertility kind of myths, or it's more of a question and answer, because if I just say myths, you're going to think they're all false. Yeah. So really it's true. It's a true or false question and answer type of statements I'm going to read and see if you guys really know the female body, reproduction, how things work, and debunk some of the myths that are out there. And we can keep track of who is right. It's kind of maybe if you guys agree, then you both get the point. But at the end, let's see who has the higher points.
I'm not ready.
This is going to be educational for our listeners as well as our guests.
It would be pretty, I feel like it's more embarrassing for me to get these wrong because I've worked here for more than a year.
I'm also about to graduate with a degree in biology, so I feel like either way, this would be very embarrassing.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, a lot of these things are not talked about, and that's why we're here,
Good
right?
to know. I'm here to learn.
A lot of these things I know because I'm a certified FEMM teacher, and that's why they brought me on here I'm an expert on something, but I would not have known these things if I did not teach it. So, and this is why we're here, is to educate people, the listeners at home, to know these things that aren't widely talked about.
You're right.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, are we ready to get into it? Perfect.
Ready.
So my first true or false statement, so again, just say true or false at the end of this, or you guys can debate it and talk about it and kind of come to an answer together.
Is this like a collaborative thing, or is this like a versus thing?
I think you can collaborate and then come to your own answers. You know what I mean?
That's great.
Okay. So my first statement, having light periods, so like less than 3 days of bleeding, is normal and healthy. Heavy bleeding is when you should be concerned when we're talking about our period, not just like bleeding out of your body, period, blood, menstruation, I should say.
Yeah. I think that's not normal to have really light bleeding for only 3 days.
Yeah, I feel like both, but also I'm wondering if it's like a dependent on the person kind of a thing.
Yeah, because it's if you're spotting irregularly, then that's not a good sign.
Yeah,
I don't know.
What's the definition of light?
Light bleeding would be using 1 to 2 tampons or pads.
But it's beyond spotting.
Beyond spotting would be like a panty liner, or maybe one pad that doesn't need to be changed much throughout the day.
I don't know. I feel like that's not normal because you're supposed to be getting all that stuff out.
Like the lining?
Yeah, the lining.
I don't know. I feel like whenever I hear about really irregular periods that are a cause for concern, it's usually like more extreme than that. But I don't know if I'm sorry. I don't know if I'm just my definition is too extreme for what
Yeah.
is.
I'm
for
loving
reason.
this discourse. Okay.
Yeah.
I love how we're feeling a little different on each side. I love the competition. So,
Watch me be
Teresa,
Okay.
what's your final answer?
I'm going to say it's not normal.
Okay. So, so that statement is false.
False.
Cello, are you a true with an asterisk of saying like what's your final answer?
I want to say both can be normal.
Both can be normal.
I don't
Oh, interesting. I'm
know.
saying neither.
You're
I
saying
don't know.
you're saying heavy bleeding is when to be concerned.
Oh, yeah.
You're
I
saying
think
having light periods less than 3 days is normal and healthy.
I'm saying that's false.
False. Heavy bleeding is when to be concerned.
I mean, you
So, like,
should
that's
probably be concerned, but that's not the only instance
Sure.
where you should be concerned.
Okay. Cello. She's so nervous. This is not high stakes, okay? It's just a podcast.
My entire worth is based on
Yeah,
what,
they're
how
actually
I
going to
answer.
revoke your degree.
I'm
actually going to report you to UW.
You know what? Since you're saying false for both, I'll just say that they're both healthy, just to have. The,
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So this is a little bit of a trick question, and that's like kind of what these are. But no, Teresa, you're correct that having too light of bleeding is a concern. And I asked this question because I think a lot of people think, oh my gosh, this is so nice, I'm not bleeding a lot. They kind of think it's a relief almost.
Yeah.
And because when you think about life, it's like, well, heavy equals worse. Like if you were
Right.
bleeding out of a cut, you'd be like, well, heavy bleeding means I need stitches, and light bleeding means like the cut's fine. But when we're talking about period health, what our period tells us is really that the hormones rose the cycle before and built up the uterine lining. And so when we have too light of periods, combined when we look at the other factors in the cycle, like cervical mucus and like cycle length and all the things that we can look at, if it's too light, that can be a sign that hormonal sufficiency is not there, meaning you didn't actually ovulate, or your body attempted to ovulate and didn't successfully do it because estrogen and progesterone need to both rise to get that lining thick. So we really should see at least 1 day of medium or heavy bleeding, meaning 3 to 5 tampons or pads used in the day. That's about 5 milliliters of blood per tampon, so 15 to 25
Oh, that's interesting.
milliliters of blood should come out of us at least one of the days. Like you said, it can vary on people's kind of regular. Everyone's going to be different, but that's why we quantify it with FEMM on how many tampons or pads someone uses or menstrual cup, because then we can quantify it of saying, okay, that much blood came out, and that means medium. That much blood means heavy. Heavy bleeding is of a concern, but heavy bleeding is telling us probably that there was sufficient hormone function in the sense of hormones actually rose.
Yeah.
They just maybe are out of whack and building, and there's something else, endometriosis, there's some other concern. So heavy bleeding also is to be concerned. So like 7 days, multiple days of heavy, so like 5+ tampons, like that's definitely to be concerned of. It can be linked to excess estrogen. It can be linked to a lot of things. However, when I look at someone's cycle, if I see really light bleeding or spotting, that's probably telling us that we didn't ovulate the cycle before. Because if we did, we're going to see that healthy menstruation for really 3 to 7 days is what we want for healthy menstruation without 1 day of heavy or medium bleeding. Does that make
Good to
sense?
know.
Yeah, that
Cool.
makes sense. Oh,
That was a good discussion,
Wow.
guys. Good
Love
work.
that. Good job.
Good job. I got it wrong. Good job.
But still.
Next question or statement. You can only get pregnant 1 day out of the month, meaning there's 1 day, if you have sex, intercourse, where pregnancy can occur.
That's false.
Is it multiple days, or is it like an hour long window, like an hours long window?
I think it's
forget.
multiple
days. Is it 2 days?
I don't know.
Something?
We're not being asked how many. I
I like
it's
that.
more
How
than
many
one.
days do you think it is? What do you think the window is in which someone could have intercourse
Like
and get pregnant?
I thought my cycle tracking app put like 2 maybe
3.
it's just 1. Maybe it is 1.
Why?
I don't know.
Why do you think that?
Because my cycle tracking app has only
That probably
highlights 1 day.
lies to you.
But
I
mine
don't know.
tells me like it has the ovulation day, but even prior to that, it says like chance of getting pregnant.
Is high.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because like
So maybe
it's not like the egg is just there for an hour and then it's gone.
Or is it?
Where is it? I know.
How long is the egg there for, Teresa? How long?
I almost want to
is great.
say false because it's an hour, like it's shorter than a day, but I don't know if that's like.
Wait, what's the question again?
Statement.
Statement.
You can only get pregnant one day out of the month, meaning there's one day if you have sex where pregnancy can occur.
Yeah, I don't think it has to be more than a day, because
Is it more than? You know what? It doesn't matter if it's more or less.
Considering
I'm gonna
how
say
many
false.
people like get pregnant on accident, like I feel like
You're going statistics on this.
one day out of, I feel like it's too few. I want to say 3.
Okay, she's saying 3. Chella, what's your call?
Oh, we're giving numbers.
No, okay. What do you think? Do you think it's one day, or do you think it's
more?
Or do you think that's a false statement and it's more or less?
I almost want to say false because it's less than a day.
So you guys are both saying false for different reasons.
Interesting.
I love this.
I want to hear this.
So this is also kind of a trick question. I'm terrible. So literally there is actually one day when pregnancy can occur, meaning when the egg and sperm find each other, because the egg is only there 12 to 24 hours.
That's what I was thinking
in
Okay.
the fallopian tube. However, you all are kind of right as well. Teresa being more right. That's great. There's a window in which sperm can last inside the body.
Yes, that's right.
So that's what our cervical mucus does. Our cervical mucus becomes more fluid and thin and stretchy and lubricative. And in that, we can keep sperm alive. So once our cervical mucus starts producing that, it's estrogenic cervical mucus, because that's being produced as the egg is being developed and growing. Once that cervical mucus starts being produced, you can get pregnant up to 3 to 5 days prior to actual ovulation. The kicker is we don't have a crystal ball and we don't know exactly the day we're going to ovulate or how long, when the egg actually releases or how long that egg will be there. Because again, there's a window, 12 to 24 hours.
Right.
So that's when if someone wants to abstain or not get pregnant, they would not have intercourse in that time of fertility because the sperm can last inside the body.
I see.
Does that make sense?
Okay, so it's dependent on when the sperm is there, not necessarily
the egg. Like the egg, is very important, but
Yeah.
kind of 2 ways someone could get pregnant. They could have sex within that fertile window. Sperm can last. And in that time, the sperm are sitting there. Some are dying off, some are alive. The egg releases and immediately the sperm sense that signal and find the egg. Or the egg could just be in the fallopian tube. Someone, let's say, has not had sex at all in that fertile window. They have intercourse. The sperm go in and they go and try to sense which, in the fallopian tube that there's an egg there. They swim up there and they find and have fertilization. So with that, there is a window when you can get pregnant, but a literal conception happening, meaning egg and sperm are finding each other, is a moment, and it's within a 12 to 24 hour period with the egg is in the fallopian tube.
Okay.
Very fun. And the cool thing is our cervical mucus actually kills sperm.
Oh, yeah.
In the infertile times. It's very powerful because our pH and our acidity changes. Structure of the mucus is thick and it kind of under a microscope looks like little balls, little circles, and it actually traps the sperm and kills them in minutes to hours. And I just think that's so powerful. Like,
exactly.
I will keep you alive or I will kill you.
Yeah.
It's very fun. Okay.
That's great.
That was good.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Learned something new, I hope.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you guys can get this question because we kind of just talked about it. Discharge should stay the same throughout the entire month. If it's watery or pasty or thick, it means something's wrong and your body's trying to talk to you. It should be the same every day. You shouldn't see any differences.
Isn't the change in discharge indicating when your period might happen? Or what stage of the cycle?
Yeah. Yeah. So it would change.
Doesn't have to be the same.
No, yeah,
Because
you're right. I think you're right.
change.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it.
Oh, no.
It definitely changes. Yeah, it depends on where you are in your cycle. Yeah.
Good.
Right.
Love it. And that is true. Yes. The next question, we're going to get a little bit more into that. Do you guys know why your mucus discharge might change? Like, what's the cause of it? I kind of said this in the last question. It's hormones.
Oh, yeah.
What are the hormones?
Estrogen and not remembering.
Progesterone.
Oh, yes.
So those are the main, and other things in the body. But how the mechanism of estrogen getting the cervical mucus very fluid and stretchy is actually pulling water content out of our body, uses the water content to make our cervical mucus more slippery and allow it actually creates these little channels that the sperm can swim through. And under a microscope, it looks very similar to seminal fluid. Because seminal fluid's job is to keep the sperm alive to get from the cervix. Once the seminal fluid is gone, that's what sperm live inside. It exits the female body, and after that, the cervical mucus kind of picks them up, if you will, and helps them travel their long journey. I have a great analogy that I created, so I take credit for it.
Trademark.
And it's, exactly. And it's how pregnancy occurs, and it's about a journey. The egg is the destination, okay? So everyone's trying to get to this egg. And the sperm are the people, and you need all 4 aspects I'm going to talk about to get pregnant. So this destination is the egg, and the people are the sperm. Because the people, if we don't have the destination, we can't get there. And if the people aren't there, we know what's the point.
Right.
Yeah, who's going? So those are main 2 things. But to get there, it's a very far destination. It's like hours and hours away. So if you didn't have a nice car to drive in or a bus, it would be very hard. So that's the seminal fluid. They transport from the testicles to the cervix during intercourse and keep driving the sperm to there. But if they had a treacherous journey of mountains and hills and terrain, it would be very hard, right? They would take them a long time and they might not make it. So our cervical mucus creates a nice road, a paved road, maybe maybe a hill to help them slide down. And they take the journey a lot easier because they have a paved area. So if one of 4 of these things are not there, pregnancy might not occur because you don't have the car to get there. Like if there's no seminal fluid, the sperm can't get out of their garage. I just thought of that. Their garage at the testicles.
Road trip ruined.
Literally, they're stuck there. And if they don't have a road to drive on, they're not making it very far. They're like, okay, well, we're dead. We hit a rock and fell off a cliff.
Wow.
And so the cervical mucus of the woman is very important for getting people getting pregnant.
Do you need a road to get to the
You
destination?
need to get a road to get to the destination.
Wow, that's a great analogy.
Wow.
Lauren.
Thank you.
so good.
I thought of it one time when I was teaching a class, and now I always teach it because I feel like it just really helps. Like, obviously, it's a lot more like scientific than that, but just from like a 4 aspects of how pregnancy can occur, it's nice and simple. I feel like a kindergartner could figure that out.
That's great. That's great.
Okay, my next statement: cervical mucus and discharge are the same thing.
I don't.
Well,
There's
I
silence
feel
across the room.
I feel like discharge is a type of cervical mucus.
You're
but
saying
maybe they're not always the same thing.
Yeah.
So you're saying like some discharge is cervical mucus, but not all cervical mucus is discharge.
Yeah. Maybe like, yeah. What do you think, Cello?
Maybe, yeah. I feel like that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know.
Because like some cervical mucus, it just doesn't leave. Yeah.
Yes, you guys are correct. They are different. And it's kind of true. Cervical mucus can be within discharge, but discharge doesn't always have cervical mucus in it. Cervical mucus is what's being produced by the cervix, very high up. Remember, the vagina leads to the cervix. It's a donut shaped, about the size of a quarter, maybe a little less. And that's what dilates during pregnancy. And the cervix is what gets impacted by the estrogen and the progesterone. So the estrogen and progesterone impact the uterine lining, so the uterus, and the cervix. In the production of that hormone, the uterine lining is built up. That's why we get menstruation, because it's preparing for a potentially fertilized egg. The cervix, it gets produced to help potential sperm, or for the progesterone time, keep the body kind of sealed off. So if a potential pregnancy has occurred, the body does not have any infection, bacteria, anything get through. So cervical mucus and discharge can come out together. But discharge can be a lot of things. It can be endometrial shedding. It can be the self-cleaning of our vagina, where it just like sheds the vaginal area to get rid of any bacteria. You know, we have a self-cleaning vagina. We don't need douching, fragrances, soaps to clean out the vagina. It does that for us. It manages the flora well. If it doesn't, if it's off, then we deal with it.
Well, how do we know when it is off?
Well, that's when you would, if you are looking at your cervical mucus and you're looking at if it's fluid or if it's more thick, you then also could tell if it's very pasty, if it's itchy, and then you know that maybe something's off. And so for someone like me who tracks this stuff religiously, every time I've had what I thought was an issue, it ended up being an issue of like a yeast infection or a bacterial infection. When you're very in tune with your discharge, you can tell when something's off. Yeah. So that is kind of the skinny on that. It is. Sometimes we use it interchangeably, and I'll use discharge to talk about things because that's how people see it. Yeah. Because they think of, okay, it's coming out of my vagina, it's discharge. But there's a difference between it getting produced by the cervix, which is very high up, and it just having its normal cellular sloughing is what we call it in the FEMM world.
Cellular sloughing.
The birth control pill bleeding. So when someone bleeds after they take the birth control pill, I don't know if you guys know how that works, but usually you take 3 weeks of hormone to prevent ovulation from happening. And then you bleed to when you take the sugar pill week, meaning, or you just skip the week. So 3 weeks of hormones, 1 week of no hormones, and then you bleed. So with that background in mind, the birth control pill bleeding is a true period or is true menstruation. True or false?
Okay.
Because
I think I have heard this before, so I'm gonna
you're leaving me all alone.
Maybe she'll affirm you or deny.
I could also be wrong based on my memory.
go cello.
You could totally just
I think I heard about this too, but I'm not remembering exactly.
Take an educated guess. You college student, you've done that before.
Critical thinking.
Is it a true period? No.
Say it with
what
confidence.
Was that?
Say it with confidence.
A little louder, please.
Is it no? Is it?
Why do you think that?
Oh, is it? Yeah.
Well, I'm not asking you.
She's just probing.
Yeah, I just want to know what your thought process is.
Isn't the birth control pill, like, since it's hormonal, it's like kind of removing the cycle from
going down the right path for sure. Teresa, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. It's not a true cycle. Oh man, I can't remember how you explained it. It was like, well, I mean, yeah, there's no ovulation happening, so it's like not a true
because the hormones are rising. Because
I think
does that
like
good
that.
job, guys. Yeah. So
good job.
ovulation. Remember when we talked about having a light period or a heavy period? That means that when ovulation happened and estrogen rose and then progesterone took over, that hormone's impacting the uterine lining. When we get a synthetic hormone of the birth control pill, it is going to build up the uterine lining a bit, but it's gonna the role is to prevent ovulation by keeping a consistent hormone. One they use in the birth control pill is progestogen, which is a synthetic form of progesterone, to kind of trick the body to not have estrogen rise and cause ovulation.
Right.
So in that process of getting that hormone, it is going to build up the uterine lining a little bit and some pills also have estrogen in it as well. To again keep hormones steady. I'm using my hand, and this is an audio platform, but to keep them kind of flatlined, if you will, and steady and not rise. And in that process, we don't ovulate, AKA it's not true menstruation. Yeah. So my biggest critique of some mid-level practitioners who talk to, and again, no fault of their own. It's more, I think, not to be someone who's talking about the system, but really it's the system of women's health and education that lacks these positions. I mean, I have a friend who's in medical school and they got 2 days of women's health in their studies. Obviously, if she goes into women's health, like she'll have more, but someone like a family practice primary care doctor might not get a lot of women's health.
That's really not enough.
Not enough about like how all the different hormonal birth controls work, how ovulation works. Like they did 2 days of like how
that's crazy,
like the cycle works. And so in that process, if you ever hear a physician or a doctor or a mid-level provider say, I'm going to prescribe you birth control to regulate your cycle. In one point, yes, it's regulating something in the sense of it's taking away ovulation. It's taking away hormonal function. And I am not naive to think that sometimes people who have really painful periods or really bad endometriosis or whatever it is do need to just put their body at bay, and they're kind of in survival mode. They don't have the time, the energy, the resources to go and investigate why their period is being so wacky and giving them so much grief. However, it's not actually your period if you're not ovulating, right? What the birth control pill is doing what we call withdrawal bleeding, which means the body not receiving the hormone it gets the other 3 weeks of the cycle, it will withdraw, get rid of that small lining it built up. And then when it gets that hormone again, it'll build it up again. So you're taking away the function of ovulation, which in turn takes away a period, because remember, a period is from estrogen and progesterone in the process of ovulation. Just be wary. Again, we're not saying never be on birth control. We're not saying that you shouldn't ask questions to your provider. But if we hear language that says you're using this to regulate your cycle,
balance my
hormones,
like
it's not doing
quite
that.
It's more like subbing them in.
Yeah. And again, not saying that the symptoms aren't hard for people. However, the symptoms are a result of your body communicating to you. And when you have the birth control, it's turning off that communication. It's putting your body in a state of hormonal insufficiency, which means you're not ovulating and your body's not having the necessary estrogen and progesterone that's needed for the function of the body, for the other functions outside of reproduction, breast health, uterus health, bone density, all the things. Okay, guys, our final question or statement is fertility awareness. So that is the method of FEMM or any of these like cycle tracking, and you're using it to avoid or achieve pregnancy, is only effective when a woman has regular cycles. Meaning if someone has wacko cycles, they don't know what's going on, everything's long, short, whatever, you can't use fertility awareness as a method of birth control. You can't use fertility awareness in an effective way, meaning you'll get pregnant or you can't get pregnant.
I feel like FEMM is like, that's what
the purpose
of FEMM is, and like what the purpose of like being aware of your cycles and tracking them is all for.
I feel like most people do FEMM because they're experiencing some sort of
irregularity.
A lot of people probably do it because they're experiencing irregularity, and then FEMM helps them to understand what's going on, so then they can achieve their pregnancy goals. So I feel like you don't need necessarily a regular cycle to participate in FEMM and then achieve your pregnancy goals.
I agree.
I don't know, is that the question?
Yeah, I know. I think that's the question. So I think there's a misconception in people who do cycle tracking or people that don't do cycle tracking and know about it. They just think if you have regular cycles, then you will just get pregnant because you won't be able to predict when you're ovulating. Right. And that's more effective when we're talking about it in the sense of avoiding pregnancy. But if you are really looking at your symptoms and not so a rhythm method, which is something like where I look at the calendar and I say, okay, I got my period on the 4th. I'll probably ovulate on the 18th. So I'm not going to have sex between the 10th and the 18th. Something like that is ineffective because that's assuming that every woman ovulates on day 14 of their cycle, like the averages say. That is very ineffective, and that will probably result in pregnancy because if I said I'm going to ovulate on day 14 and I didn't ovulate until day 18 and then I was, having sex and on day 18 I ovulated, I could probably get pregnant.
Yeah.
Right. So they do say, and this is true, it is more effective, or it can have higher effectiveness when someone has regular cycles just because there's less guessing game. But if someone is truly checking and is on top of their tracking, they can use it in an effective way because you're not just going off of, in the last month or in my life, I ovulated on this day. You're going off of what you're seeing every single day. And you make decisions on those days of, okay, I have this cervical mucus. I will not engage in intercourse, or I will, depending on my fertility goals. And honestly, people who have had surprise pregnancies with fertility awareness, most of them knew that they were making a decision. And we're like, well, you know, we can risk it, or, you know, we're whatever. Like, it probably is fine.
Yeah.
And then later they're like, yeah, I definitely like was ovulating or close to ovulating.
Right.
I hear that so much. It's take a class or read a book or understand it so you're not going off of guesswork or an app. That is my biggest pet peeve.
Real-time information.
If you go, and I'm fine, people can use apps if they want to chart their period and they give them these like predictions of when they're going to get their period. Whatever. That doesn't, I don't care. It's probably not accurate, but whatever. If you avoid intercourse to avoid pregnancy based on when an app tells you you're ovulating and you don't put any data in it that says, I'm going to just talk right to these girls, any data in it that says I have fertile mucus or I have this temperature, it is not going to work. Okay? You will get pregnant. Don't do it. Like, literally don't do it.
Right on Instagram.
I mean, it's too much for me. It's people were like, well, the app says I wasn't ovulating. Okay. The app does not know what's going on inside your vagina.
The app does not know what your mucus looks like.
Literally.
Your
And yes, for some people, it's going to be accurate if they have really regular cycles, but that's most women don't. If you have anything that happens in your life, stress, illness, a new medication, a procedure done, like a dental procedure, that will or potentially throw off your ovulation. And so it might, and a lot of times it delays it. So in that, they're like, oh yeah, I ovulate on day 14 every cycle. Well, this one you didn't. So
dun, dun, dun.
Take a class, read a book. Don't use apps that predict things that if you don't put any data in it. If you put data in more like the FEMM app specifically, you put, I see this mucus. It tells you, this is your goals. This is what I would have tell you to do, in the sense of, you want to avoid pregnancy? Don't have intercourse. Because you put in that you're having cervical mucus. If an app just says you're fertile based on national averages, that is not going to help you avoid pregnancy. So that's my soapbox, because I just, people will be like, I have this amazing app. It says it. Do you put any information in it? No, just my period. Okay, then that is not going to help you avoid pregnancy. So
pro tip.
That's my pro tip and my soapbox. And that's all my questions. You guys did really good. I think Teresa won.
Probably,
but you guys were close. Honestly, it wasn't like you didn't shoot it out of the water and you didn't got everything. You guys were middle. I think you were 1 or 2 points ahead, but good job, guys. That was fun.
I think we should still take a FEMM class.
That would be a good idea.
It's so fun to just know it. And every time I talk about it, I'm just like, I just love how much it makes sense. Like I have 2.5 years, almost 3 years of like daily logs of my cycle.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's admirable.
Your doctors are like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like a lot of like, okay, we can see like when things were different or like what changed or like different lifestyle impacts, like how it adjusted things. Cool, girls.
Cool.
Good job, Chella.
Yeah, good job, Chella. Good job, Teresa.
I did worse than you. I don't know why you're saying good job.
You did great.
You did a good job.
Thank you so much for joining us, listeners, for another Wellness Wednesday podcast. Hope to have you guys listen again in the future. We are always looking for what you guys want to hear about. So if you ever have topic ideas or questions for our providers or us, please email us and go to our website. You'll find our email there. Thank you so much and be well.
Bye. Bye.
For more information about 3W, please visit our website at 3wmedical.org. That's the number 3, the letter W, medical.org. From there, you can learn more about the services we provide, book an appointment, or even make a donation if you'd like to help support our mission. You can also call our office at 206-588-0311. That's 206-588-0311. If you liked this episode, please share it with others and consider subscribing on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, stay healthy and be well.